All right, welcome to Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with my friend, a Nigerian prince, Keith. What's up, buddy?
And I'm here with D-Man, who, like myself, grew up in the rough underbelly of upper-class suburban Massachusetts.
Oh, golly, this is going to be interesting. All right, well, here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing London is Falling, a recent piece of nonfiction. Actually, the subtitle is A Mysterious Death in a Gilded City and a Family Search for Truth by Patrick Radden Keefe. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to any past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on X or Instagram. That's Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us iTunes, Spotify, wherever you podcast. Download, subscribe, 5-star review, please, and thanks. Keith, this is maybe the most recent book in terms of from publication to us reading it that we've done. It came out in April of this year. I mean, outside of the ones that we get advanced copies from the publishers.
Yeah, no big deal.
But yeah, it came out in April this year, 4.4 on Goodreads. I read a New York Times article about the book by Jennifer Slazia. I don't know how to say her last name, and I apologize to her because I'm sorry. It's difficult for me. But she wrote, Zac is at the center of London Falling, but Keefe situates his death on a bigger canvas, a city that has tried to address its collapsing industrial base by becoming increasingly dependent on oligarch money, and a police force that is woefully underfunded and plagued by complacency and corruption. I thought that was a pretty good, quick synopsis of this story.
Yeah, I don't think that sells it, because I think people want the mystery and the... an unsolved crime story. But yeah, no, I think that actually is a better description.
That's why I picked that one out, because I was like, oh, this is actually what this is about. I think we decided to read this book because, one, my mom told me I had to read it. Like, gave me the text. Can you talk? I need to talk to you right now, which is like, oh my God, did like something terrible happen? What? And it was, you need to read this book, London Falling. And then the next day, Caroline was listening to a podcast, and it was with our good buddy now, Patrick Radden Keefe. And so I just felt like it was a sign. So here we are. So let's just get into some stock up, stock down. Keith, what do you have for stock up for London is Falling, a mysterious death in a Gilded City, and a family search for truth?
Being poor, stock up?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Similar to Red Notice, a book we read before. I understand that being painted as a rich, upper-class snob doesn't really lend itself to sympathy, so they try to be like, this is the everyman, for all these people that are not that. With that being said, really, like, the Brettler family, they're not rich in the same way that an Olympian running in the 100-meter dash that comes in 5th place is not fast. It doesn't make any sense because they're like, yeah, man, it was tough growing up in the mean streets of London. All these Russian oligarchs that are so rich. Man, it was really tough. So we had to decide which private school to send both our kids to while we're sitting in our 2,000 square foot London apartment overlooking the city. But the really tough part, too, just being as poor as having to then fly to New York City to our Manhattan apartment that we also own.
Did they have a Manhattan apartment?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's where they'd go during the summers. It was like, oh, yeah, totally. I can totally relate to that, being that poor. But yeah, that was kind of the essence of some of the issues I had with the book. Is just, it reminded me of the Social Network. You remember the meeting? The Winklevoss twins meet with the dean. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that scene? Yeah. And he says, this right here, this is the issue, is you're getting this meeting, and this book is written not because it's really, and I feel like I'm coming out hot right to start, but not because there's really this crazy mystery or some like really... unfair justice. It's written because it's a rich family that wants answers, and they're doing everything they can with all the power they have to get those answers. And I don't really think, frankly, there was that much of a mystery. It was, again, coming out hot here, but it was an adult man, 19 years old. He was young. That sucks that he died. That was a con artist who wanted to be rich. He wanted to show glitz and glam. He tried to con people. And then instead of facing consequences and maybe getting beat up or something bad happening to him, he took his own life. That's the story. Now, I don't really know what the nefarious part outside of that is. So that was my biggest issue. And the only reason we're hearing about this story is because he's a rich person. If he were a poor person or a middle-class person that just jumped off of some high-rise and poor housing, the story's over. There is no story. You know what I'm saying? So that's my issue. Did I come out too hot, or is that the right steam level?
Well, my first stock up was you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. So, yeah.
Coming in hot. And can I say one thing first is that I usually read fiction, so I apologize. This is a real story, but I'm used to speaking like this to fiction. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough gear shift to go from talking about like sword and sorcery, sword and sandals, whatever it is, fantasy, to a nonfiction where this was a real person. He lost his life. His family was obviously affected. There are ripple effects from someone dying in this manner. But to your point, I think PRK, the story came to his attention because he was on the set for a show, for a miniseries or whatever, for a previous book he had done. And he's a producer on that series. And someone there came up to him and said, I have these friends who, and it was the Brettler, his parents, Zac Brettler's parents. He said, I have these friends who this happened to their son. You know, would you talk to them? Because I think they were trying to explore getting it out into the media. So, you know, would they have had that access to someone who writes for The New Yorker and is a prolific author and a producer of this TV series if they didn't have the rich and wealthy friends? Probably not. You know, I think it's fair that, however you want to say it, middle to upper class, white male who died and they get the story. So I think that's fair, but at the same time, he's using it, PRK's using this to tell a bigger story. Not that, and I mean using this as in telling his story. He's not using the Brettler family. I didn't read that by any means. But he's telling the story of Zac Brettler and the Brettler family as a whole. I'm sure there's a couple things in there about his grandfather and stuff, kind of lying about going to Cambridge or Harvard. I don't even know where it was, but he lied about some of his provenances, and also had, it might have been the other grandfather, had a fake family or a real family that they didn't know about. So I'm sure there was some stuff in there that the Brettlers didn't necessarily want, but I'm not too upset about it. I think by my stock up being you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, I'm glad the elephant in the room was addressed in that Zac, throughout this book, he's not the most sympathetic of people. No. Like you said, he was somewhat of a con man himself, and he was badgering
somewhat. He definitely wasn't just a con man, straight up. Yeah.
He was badgering his parents to get a bigger house and a fancy car. You know, he's trying to keep up with the Joneses, that in his mind, the Joneses were these super wealthy kids and the families that they were a part of that he went to school with. Yeah. He was compulsively lying, and I know they play that off as when he was a kid, you know, he would be able to kind of relate with people and was able to kind of joke around, and that was like, these lies were almost playful, and then at some point they turned to be not playful, and instead were getting him into more and more trouble. I'm not sure who he was really hurting. You know, it seemed like the people that Zac was hurting were the people that we don't care about in really rich people. Unfortunately, when you do that, though, sometimes you can cross paths with the wrong people, and then something happens to you because of that. It's kind of your own fault. You just hope it's not dying.
Yeah. They didn't kill him, though. You know what I mean? And also, who's he hurting? He's only hurting innocent women, his mom, you know, no big deal, choking her out. So, yeah, totally a good dude.
Yeah, at the same time, it pales in comparison to the total piece of shit con man / grifter that Akbar Shamji and the biggest piece of shit Verinder Sharma were. You know, those guys were real pieces of shit.
Well, I mean, he just didn't have 30 years under his belt to do the same thing they were doing, because he's going to become them. If he was willing to take a beating, which he was probably going to get beat up, then he would just turn into those people. But he wasn't, so he jumped off the balcony. That's what it was, right?
Well, I think he obviously didn't have the safety net that Akbar did with whatever cons his dad had done, and then his dad was able to set him up basically in a much better situation for these cons to work because of his accolades and closeness with Margaret Thatcher and whatnot. And, Verinder has his own safety net in, if you kind of believe what's posed by PRK, that he was potentially a police informant and had somewhat of a get out of jail card, which when I read it, I thought that was likely. I don't know if it's true or not, but it was definitely likely. But it seems that your take, and I guess
I'm pretty cynical, unfortunately, on this one.
Well, that's good, I think, because the whole story in itself is cynical about society. It's, I guess I'll burn one of my stock downs, but my first stock down is the institutions that we're meant to trust and believe in, that being, in this case, the government and the police force. These institutions, sometimes they become so corrupt or backwards that they end up like mirroring the bad things and people that they're meant to protect us against. The government, in this situation, like the bigger picture, that the zoom out, the 30,000 foot view or whatever the case is, being with the breakup of the Soviet Union, a bunch of these, and we read this, and like you said, in Red Notice, this other book we had read about finances in Russia. But the British government basically seeing their industrial complex diminishing, and them being more of like a maritime trading industrial place, all of a sudden in the 2000s, they're like, oh, what are we going to do? So they turned to more finance stuff and like deregulating finances and allowing in all of these Russian oligarchs who the reason they got their money is because when the fall of the Soviet Union happened, they pretty much just stole all the money that was the people's money and created their own, multi-billion-dollar companies. But then we're like, well, we don't want to have this money in Russia, so let's take it to the UK because they're totally deregulating. They're allowing us to pay no taxes by living here, which is wild. And then the whole the war in Ukraine breaks out, and there are Russian people getting murdered on the streets of London in very, CIA spy type ways with, poisons and chemical agents and all this stuff. And the British people or the British government seemingly chill with it. And then the police themselves are pretty blasé about the whole Zac. You seem to think it was a straight up suicide and not a murder. I'm going to say murder because I thought it was more of a murder, but they're so blasé about the whole idea, or so myopic that they can't see that there's potential for something else to be involved, that I don't think they took this case very seriously to begin with.
I'm on the police's side.
Oh, okay.
When you have a full-time investigator that's spending countless hours, and I'm sure he's backed by dollars from the family, because clearly another reporter said they'd do it for like $30K or something crazy like that. So he's getting paid in one way or the other. Obviously he wrote the book.
Oh, PRK.
So he's obviously able to do this. But my whole point is that, so he establishes...
I don't think he was necessarily getting paid by the family. This is his job. He's an investigative journalist.
Well, either way. He's getting paid to write the story, but he's benefiting from the fact that he has unlimited access to the people that are giving the narrative to him, right?
Okay, so, sure. That's not like he just sat and had interviews with the Brettlers and wrote the story. Right. He combed, there's 60, at the end of this book, there's 60 pages of source material, including all of the Brettlers.
He did a good job researching.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting that. My whole point is that he establishes these two dudes are not good guys. Fine. We all agree on that. But then he's like, why didn't the police ask all these people? It's like, well, the police say they're bad guys. You say they're bad guys. They're all bad guys. What exactly is someone that knows the person now going to say? Even if the person said, yeah, he wanted to kill Zac, that's hearsay still. There's no evidence that what happened there led to... There's just zero and things that could... Unless hearsay is not legal or legal in the UK, there's nothing that anyone else could say ever, unless they were in that room, that could potentially lead to the guilt or the murder of Zac. So I didn't understand why he was like, well, why don't you go ask this person? It's like, okay, the person says that they hated Zac. Okay, now what? You're still in the exact same position as you were right before.
Well,
that.
They could
I don't understand
say that
hearsay, sir. Hearsay.
Well, you could. Cases are won on circumstantial evidence. You could have someone saying that Verinder was like, Zac said he's going to give me $2 million. Turns out he's a fake. I'm going to kill him tonight. And then
by making him jump off by not forcibly making.
How many horror movies have you seen? It's like someone is chasing you around with a knife. You jump out of a window on the second floor to get away from them. If you're on the second floor, someone's in the room, they're chasing you with a knife, you would jump out the window, right?
Yeah,
When you
but there's
take it
no
into your own
evidence
hands, or
of
would
that.
you just try to
There's
fight
video evidence of him deciding just to jump off. So there's no. That's the whole thing. But even if, again, someone says he didn't like him and he was going to do something to him, there's still no evidence based off the video you see, or any stab wounds, or any actual crucial evidence to maybe in a civil court you could win it. But there's no way you could win it in an actual criminal court.
So you're telling me that there is, and I hope people have read the book, otherwise they're going to be very confused. You're telling me that it is on a scale, everything's on a scale. Let's say one side of the scale, 100, is that Zac committed suicide. He was, and I guess I will also want to know, like, what made you feel like he was in a mental space to commit suicide, and also, what evidence is there that he was going to commit suicide. But 100 is that he committed suicide, and 0 is that he was murdered or forced. Basically he had no other choice but to try to save his life by jumping off this balcony into the Thames. What number are you at?
It's hard to know. I would say
roughly. I'm not going to say
90. I would say 90 out of 100 that he committed suicide. I think
so. You're saying way more likely than not. Got it.
Well, I think there's some mental aspect that maybe he did actually fear for his life. Whether that's again, how do we know he's going to get killed? Or how do we know he's not going to get punched in the face? There's a big difference between those two things. Do you really think a person that owns the house, owns the apartment, would kill them right in the apartment? And then what was he going to do with the body? He has to deal with all that stuff. There's video evidence everywhere, right?
Yeah, but no one knew about the MI6 video camera or video on it. It's not like
they exonerated the two shitty guys because ultimately they could have been just found evidence that said, he pushed him off here, right? Well, luckily exonerated him that there's video of it.
Yeah, but the coroner said that there's neither evidence that he committed suicide or was murdered, which is very interesting. So to me, I'm on
what percentage? Let me ask you this then. What percentage did you say was it Zac's fault?
Zach's
that he's in that situation. Yeah, that he's in that situation and then took his own life.
100.
Or got pushed. 100%. Okay, all right. That's all you need to know then. Again, why do I have sympathy for this person then?
Yeah. No, that's a fair point of whose fault is it? But
and do you get my whole thing is the first half of the book he establishes all these people are bad, and in the second half of the book he's questioning everyone why they're not asking other people about whether they're bad or not. It doesn't track at all. I'm I just don't understand what they wanted the police. So you want the police to now take more time away from actual murders and actual people, kids missing, right? Yes, children missing, and maybe people are kidnapped, or maybe people that are unsolved murder mysteries. You want to take them away from that to help with some thing to find out the mental state of a guy that his parents don't even know was conning people or didn't know the mental. His parents are like, he's not suicidal. So you don't know anything about him. How the hell would you ever know he's suicidal or not? You know nothing about him.
Yeah, and there was people that said that he was particularly depressed and additional.
He could have been a heroin addict. Also, he might have been gay.
Oh, with him and Akbar.
Yeah. They were sleeping in the same bed, which I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, we've already discussed this. I think on the last podcast that it's nothing wrong with a couple of guys sleeping on the same bed. I mean, you go on golf trips and stuff like that. Things happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're trying to frame it as potentially a lover's quarrel or something along those lines, which that seemed a little far-fetched, but I'm glad. I mean, PRK really stretched it out, that's for sure. So he brought in all evidence, and maybe those were red herrings or whatnot. But yeah, I think and it's interesting because he also was running out of his money. I guess he had bar mitzvah money that his dad had given him, and he had 20 cents left. So that gives more weight to your side of, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I'm a fugazi. How am I going to live with myself kind of situation? But it just seemed like the Verinda Sharma heating up knives thing. It seemed to me more of someone who was in fear for his life in that apartment and thought, my only way out of this is, it's 5 stories. It's not doable. And if you see a picture of the apartment, there's it pretty much sits over the water. It's not an impossible jump. And for someone that's kind of obsessed with movies and these characters who can kind of do these things, the idea being, there's a high chance I'm going to die in this apartment, so let's take, I can make the Thames. Let's see if I can jump into it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if there's some guy that had massive gambling debts and he knew bookies were after him and did the exact same thing, would you say we gotta investigate these bookies? Like, these bookies are not good people. We need to find everything we can about the bookies. Let's ask everyone about the bookies. Would you do the same thing for them? Because that's what it was.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is not everyone deserves the rights that we all get in terms of a fair investigation. Like, if you're a bad guy and someone kills you, like, you don't deserve to be investigated. Like, your murder doesn't deserve to be investigated.
No, that's definitely not what I'm saying. There's video evidence of him deciding to jump off. Now, if you want to establish that he was forced to do it in some way.
Have you never seen a Saw movie? Like, this is what the whole Saw movies are premised on. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, he forces people to do things that they don't want to do so that they don't die. So
they kidnapped him, brought him to their own apartment, and made him sleep there, right? Is that what happened? I'm saying, did someone force him? It's the same thing with the gambling thing. Did someone force him to do all these things that led up to him getting in trouble with people that were unscrupulous characters?
Yeah, he made,
right?
Yeah, he made, that is the word. Good word.
Now, if someone pushed him off, 1,000%, they should go to jail and they should be tried for murder. Now, if there's evidence of him being stabbed or some sort of physical ailments before he jumped that forced him, so that he was bleeding out and he's like, I can't make it to the hospital, I gotta jump. Fine. If your parents knock on the door and say, open this door, mister, right this instant, or you're gonna be in big trouble, and you jump out the fucking door, you charge the parents with murder because... Yeah, you do charge them with murder because the parents got mad at you? Like,
no, but that's my whole point. That's taking it way down.
How is it different?
What if friggin' Verinder said, I'm going to cut you into little pieces. I'm going to put this hot knife into your eye until it pops, unless you go outside and jump off that balcony right now.
So that's what we're going with.
I don't know.
That's
it's just as likely as your situation. I'm not saying that's what happened.
The book paints these two guys as these crazy and unbelievable criminals that are, these masterminds that are also completely the most vicious people. Even though it's some tech nerd that owns an AI company, he's not the most vicious person.
He's an absolute idiot con man.
Akbar,
yeah. There's no way he is like.
So, but they also know he's a con man, but he doesn't know he's a con man.
The companies he created afterwards that PRK goes through are like, the blurbs are so corporate-y, Chat GPT created.
You live in the real world. That's every
no, I know.
These days.
Exactly. It's just like, ugh.
I mean, you could look at any 90% CEOs are exactly him. They're just con artists that jump from company to company, don't do anything, but they're like great at their resumes.
I mean, we have a president like that. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's my whole point. So I don't really know. So you're saying that's the guy that was so intimidating and all these things. So. I don't know.
It is also interesting that these guys are like, and granted, there's no reason someone that's 60 or 70 can't be scary, but they're like 60 and 70-year-old.
I looked at pictures of them and I was like, these are the guys? What are we doing here? A 19-year-old, athletic 19-year-old couldn't get away from these guys or do any, I mean, come on.
Juke them out.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, I think we're going to agree to disagree. We probably had 20 minutes on that. But hey, if it says anything about the story, it says that it was written in a way that got us feeling something because...
Yeah, no, that's true.
And, we're usually pretty simpatico about these things. And I'm not necessarily saying that you're wrong. I think some of the ways that you got there were terrible and were misjudged. But
it's not equal. So if you have to choose between someone spending 40 hours on this case or someone spending 40 hours on a missing daughter kidnapped, which one do you want them spending it on?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not that simple.
It is that simple. There's only a certain amount of hours.
I wish it was that simple, but it's not.
Well, I'm just saying, answer the question, sir. Which one do you want them spending the time on?
Have spending the time on a missing woman. Is that what you're saying? Because it's like a missing
8-year-old girl is missing.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, so there you go. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day that, if you're saying the police are underfunded, okay, so which one do you want them spending time on? A guy that seemingly either committed suicide or maybe was forced to, and we'll find out by asking his friends, or the person that actually is actively missing. Like,
it's you can only do the job that's put in front of you, and the job was put on this guy's desk, and he did a terrible job. Simple as that. What else you have for stock up?
The U.S. prison system stock up. I mean, everything I've heard about our prison system, from our judicial system to the people putting them in there for the for-profit prisons, treatment of prisoners, recidivism rate, everything to do with our system's terrible. But then we hear about Indian Dave's like associates and things like that, but just like beating the shit out of people and murdering people, and they were like, well, we'll put you in prison for 6 years, and then you'll only serve like 2 of them. And I was like, wait, what? What's going on? There's a bunch of characters that were just like running around. And again, I don't know if the book is just painting them in the worst possible light, but it sounded like you could go to London, and if you like just started like pushing people around, the British people would be like, oh my goodness, what are you doing here, sir? Like, you know, and just fold. That's what it sounded like. So I don't know. I think either the prison systems are terrible, or people are the softest people ever. I couldn't tell. Did you get a read on that?
No, it was very interesting. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of situations anyways. I mean, Caroline watches these 2020 and Dateline stuff, and, you know, these people that like murder people or, you know, rape people, and then it's like, yeah, in the end of the story, it's like, wow, that was so crazy. And then it's like, yeah, they got 10 years. I'm like, 10 years? How'd they only get 10 years for that? It's like, yeah, they served 6 and then were released. It's like, what?
And they immediately did it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's terrible. I wanted to know more about the guy who did that heist, the gold heist or whatnot. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because no one ever found the gold. He served his time, and like people within the case were dying, you know, like getting murdered. Exactly. It was like the Lufthansa heist.
Yeah.
And it was, he then gets out of jail and just lives his life, but presumably he's got, you know, millions and millions, and the gold just goes back into the system. Crazy. That was fascinating for me. But my next stock up was a simple Google search. Stock up. So
go on.
Akbar and Verinder seem like buffoons, and I know that like they never looked
You're
up.
Making
Zac.
My point, by the way.
Yeah,
but go on. It's 2019 this happened, right? 2020. So it wasn't like it was like, oh, it's 1990 and nothing. You know, can't find out stuff on these people.
Yeah,
go on.
and I know that they said their argument was they were familiar with these oligarch types, and they have ways of staying totally under the radar, completely off the internet, that kind of thing. And Zac can have a fake Instagram account where he's, you know, standing next to Lamborghinis and saying they're his, and getting picked up at One Hyde Park by whoever, the guy who introduced him to Akbar, and so they just assumed he lived there. But there just seems to be a lot of assumptions. If you're going to get in, this isn't a Akbar type where you know that he's at least been around and you know people that he knows. This is a 19-year-old kid who you're doing deals with for like Portugal real estate, like Lisbon real estate. You're getting a 19-year-old involved, but he's never putting up cash, and there's always some excuse for one thing or another. It's like, oh, but he lives at One Hyde Park. It's like, well, I only picked him up outside. No one ever thought, you know, maybe I'll just tail him or like pay someone a couple bucks, you know, pay a private investigator just to tail him, just to see what his actual deal is. Yeah, it's like then when he eventually brought Akbar or someone to his family's house, he just took all the pictures off the wall, and they were like, yeah, there's nothing on the walls. It was weird, but he was renting out this place. Everything just seemed so shady. Yeah. And if they were sitting there waiting for a payday where they're going to get millions of dollars from this kid at some point, you'd think if you're going to talk about investing time, if you're going to invest that much time into grooming this young man, then you should probably do a little bit of due diligence onto if he actually is who he says he is.
That's why everything's so unbelievable. The picture thing in particular just shows like, oh, there's no photos on the wall. Oh, that makes sense. It's kind of like George when he brings the woman back to his parents' place, and they're like, who's you have kids? Like, no, that's a picture of me.
Yeah.
It's like, what? The biggest thing is he didn't speak Russian. Yeah. So it seems like that would be pretty easy. He doesn't have an accent.
Or maybe some people said, I think they said he had passable Russian, which was crazy to me because he didn't. And then some people say he spoke with an accent, and other people say he didn't. I can understand not having an accent, but
I think that's why almost the relationship thing makes more sense to me, honestly.
That him and Akbar were having an intimate relationship.
That makes more sense to me than any of this stuff, honestly, because it's just so. The other thing too is like when you read text, other than the sexual stuff, which was I don't think you text all that stuff.
No.
Maybe Britain's different, or I don't know if the culture is different. But like I'll text someone being like, if you read my text out of context, I'll text someone and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill that person. They're fucking dead to me," or something like that. Like if you read that from a transcript, all of a sudden it's like, "Oh my god, this guy's a murderer." You know what I mean? Like, but that's not how. That's just how people talk over text.
Yeah.
So when he was like, "Get the knives ready," I didn't take that at face value, but until he tried to explain it with like, "Get the knives ready, brothers," or what did he say? He said something like, "Oh, that's a slang word I use," and I was like, "Okay, never mind." He actually had knives getting ready.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Also, Akbar was super weird. His gratuitous use of the N-word was just like, what?
He did? Did I not pick up on that?
Yeah, he had like a Motown record deal or something, or not even a Motown. It was like in California. And he had
He was in California. Yeah, okay.
People, and he was like, "Oh, like I'm the same because I'm from whatever, or I'm African because I'm from Uganda," and it's like how out of touch. That's the problem. So many of these people are just so out of touch with just how to act like a human being. It's
also he was like welching on all these deals, and then like after like the third or fourth one, I would probably be like, "Oh, maybe fool me once, shame on you." Like so, the first people that got fooled, fine. The 35th bank that gave him a loan and he welched on it, it's like, are we even? Isn't that your fault at this point? Like
I think that was his dad. That was his dad.
No, but he was doing all the same thing. Like, he was just like cutting, ripping people off, like not paying any debts, just like bouncing, and it was all under. He had great lawyers, by the way, amazing lawyers. They all put like shell companies. I didn't even know
that was his. That was a thing. I mean, his dad started that, but then
smart.
Yeah, you can just put your whole. You just have a company for your company, and then buy things. It gets so high level, and it's unfortunate that the system is set up that way because it's really just set up for these people. Like it just protects these people. I mean, it's the same reason why some of the biggest companies in our country don't pay taxes because they're like, "Oh no, I'm actually run out of Ireland." It's like Facebook's an Irish company. It's like, what? You do all your business here. It's like, no, but the company's in Ireland, so we don't have to pay taxes in the United States.
Yeah.
Absolutely
well, I mean,
ridiculous.
They should have made him put like, once he messed up a bunch of companies, he should have had to put like collateral and things. Like he should have had stuff they had to do in order to get the agreements. But
specie.
People are people.
Specie. That's what they say in this American history thing I'm listening to. They keep saying it. It means like hard coin.
Okay.
But he says it all the time because it's talking about the like early 1800s when they're setting up like the U.S. bank and then the second bank and whatnot, and they have to be backed by specie, which is the gold reserve kind of thing. And but they say it. The guy who narrates it says it all the time, and I'm just like specie. Like I get it. Just say like gold or whatever. Say pearls. I don't care what it is. But my last one was single story dwellings stock up.
Go on.
Well, hard to jump to your death if there's only single story dwellings.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that was the last one.
I would have said stairs stocked. The single story dwelling is a little bit highfalutin. You went to your private school. You're showing your private school.
I did not.
Man, can you imagine not getting into your number one choice at private school when you're 13? I would ruin me for my whole life. I can't imagine it.
It's that thing. Well, it's funny because I have a buddy who lives in London, and he sends photos of these cars all the time, like on the streets. Like he's walking on the street, hundreds of $1,000 cars, like all over the place. And I guess it takes me to my first stock down, which is I already did the institutions, but social media stock down. If you're trying to look at social media and figure, and this is social media, but also just society as a whole. If you're using that as your barometer of what happiness is and wealth is, then you're just going to be sad and depressed your whole life. And also, just so people know, those people are just as unhappy as all of us. So, but it seemed like Zac kind of got caught up, and it's not necessarily just social media. I think PRK said in an interview that he said he didn't want this whole story to be framed as kid dies because of the algorithm, the social algorithm. He didn't want that to be the story, but he definitely was caught up in that, but it's also just the way the setting that he was in with these private schools and being surrounded by wealthy people that, were, even though he was wealthy, it was 100,000x times that. So he felt poor compared to them. So if you're just sitting there comparing yourself and saying that's who I want to be, as opposed to realizing how much better you have it than legitimately 99% of the population of the planet, then you're going to be in a bad mental way.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the medicine for that is. I'm not really sure, because I feel like, if you're just trying to keep up the Joneses or not appreciating what you have, it's tough. It's tough to live out there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we all get caught up in it to some degree, It's hard. I feel like it's hard not to, even if that's not part of your social algorithm or whatnot. But it could be, I mean, I have no idea, you know what I mean? Like, it could be someone with a really big house that you're like, oh, like, I wish I had that. Or someone that did all sorts of, fun stuff that you like, I want to do. I have no idea. Like, I honestly have very little of that. I'm thankful for however I got that mindset of, I'm really happy with what I have and don't want really anything more, but that people would be like, maybe you're a loser because you don't. So I don't know.
I think some people are more materialistic, which I think is, well, for him, it seems like that he's well-spoken, well-liked, a really good family. He's got so many things going for him that it seems it's very, very hard, again, to really sympathize with him, because so many people don't. Like, he just needed to, like, maybe go to charities more, or, so he just didn't have any perspective, which at 19, I get that, but.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, 19, you're still.
No, I agree. But.
I did so many stupid things when I was 19 and, even into my 20s, people do stupid stuff all the time. It's just, you don't expect those things to kill you. And he was putting on a con that was probably, he didn't realize how big of a situation he was getting himself into, I think. What do you have for Stock Down?
I just want to be a little bit cuttable, but being a concerned parent, Stock Down. I get it. Being a parent's hard, especially if you have a kid that's going through struggles, and we have 20/20 hindsight, going on here. But I mean, I didn't like Zac at all. We already talked about this.
Jesus.
Yeah. I don't think his parents liked him either. I mean, like, at one point, they're like, yeah, so we didn't get in the private school we wanted to, and like the new one was like 30-minute drive. We were like, no, we're not doing that shit. So we just had him stay there for the whole week. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, he's really struggling, but we didn't want to have to deal with it. So we'd rather not drive the 30 minutes extra. So we just had him live there. I was like,
well, board. I think you're also not super, like, boarding is way more common in the UK. Okay. Like, in England, going to a boarding school is way more common than it is here.
They were like making it sound like they had to drive like 5 hours every day. Can you imagine doing another 30 minutes? Yes. If the kid is that struggling that much, I think it's probably important that you're maybe doing that 30-minute drive and talking with them. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but
yeah.
But also in the midst of the biggest time frame, like, he just choked his mom out. He was going to therapy, all these things. They were like, and then so we left for this like weekend vacation by ourselves, like the two parents. And I was like, wait, pardon? What happened? They're like, yeah. So anyways, we set up a camera to watch him. I was like, oh yeah, good job parenting. I didn't realize you did that. And then the kid doesn't throw a ripper, doesn't have people over, nothing happens. And then they're like, so it wasn't that big of a concern. I'm like, no, that is red flag number one. Like, what are you doing?
That's where you didn't have a party is concerning.
Exactly. Not like no weird stuff going on. Like, what? That's weird.
Yeah.
If honestly, I mean, and then they just aren't curious at all. Fake bank accounts, talking to random people at night, being all stressed out. I understand he's a teenager, he's angsty, he's all these things. I would never have this book written, because obviously I just don't think they cared that much until after the fact, it seems like. So
well, when he showed his dad the bank slip or whatever, and he had 500,000 pounds in it or whatever it was. I don't even know what the number was, but it was a lot of money, like way more money than you would have at 19. That would be like, hold on. His dad said, oh, are you thinking about taxes and this stuff and the other thing? But
are you putting some into your 401k?
But I'd be like, hold on. open your computer, log into your account right now. You're 19. I want to look and see what you're doing with this, because currently you have enough money that if you were to squirrel that away, like, you could retire off this money. You could do whatever the hell you wanted in this world and you could retire off this money. So, like, let's take a step back, say congratulations, but let's, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it didn't seem like there was that next level of questioning. And granted, Zach probably wasn't able to do it, but I feel like, and it's hard, it must be so hard for them because they see him one way, but then they find out later on that he has this whole fake storyline, and everything is just, he has this whole life that they didn't even know about. So, you know, you question yourself as a parent, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure they've thought about those terrible things that you said about them. But, you know, which brought me to my stock down, which is stock down of being able to influence your kids. And it's a stock down because, you know, I have a daughter who's almost 2, and you want to be able to mold these human beings. Like, that is your goal pretty much. You know, it's trivial now, but like, I have a little chipping net in the backyard, and I got her little plastic golf clubs because I want to play sports with her. Like, I want that to be a thing that we can do. So I'm trying to make those accessible, and I'm trying to imprint that on her. But we all have to realize that you really can't, they're their own people, and you can only influence them to a very small degree. And at the end of the day, they're going to decide what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And will it be extremely heartbreaking if my daughter decides that she doesn't want to play sports with me or at all, or doesn't want to read books and watch movies and, you know, go on walks? That would be absolutely terrible, but that might be the person that she is. And as much as you try to mold them, you know, at the end of the day, they're their own person. And I think that's a problem for his parents, where they brought him up, they gave him all of the opportunities that he needed to succeed. You know, it seemed like they were great. They were a great family and everything was good. But then for him to get influenced by this outside force and decide that's the error, that's the trajectory he wanted, it's gotta gut you.
Yeah. Well, I will say just to one thing that I think about you, which I think is why you're going to be a great dad, and you are a great dad.
Thank you. Keep going.
Well, I just know your personality is, if she wasn't into sports, but she's into ballet, but isn't into ballet, or she's into drawing, you're going to become someone that likes doing those things.
I'm going to like ballet? No way.
Well, I think you'll start to appreciate it, especially if you see your daughter enjoying it. So that's what I'm saying is, like, as long as they find something that they like, I think, I know you're not going to be like, well, they don't play golf, I'm not talking to her now. You know, it's like, no, that's not going to happen.
Well,
so
it is funny you said the ballet thing, because I have friends or other people we've talked to who are like, oh yeah, my daughter's doing dance and we have these dance recitals and whatnot. I was like, she will never even know that dance exists.
Why? Have you heard bad things about it?
Well, my sister was into like the tap dance when she was little, and also all other kinds of dance. And I'd have to go to these recitals, 2 years younger than her, and just be bored out of my gourd.
Well, it's not your daughter.
It doesn't matter. Yes, it's cute, but they're cute for like a minute, and then it's like, all right, I'm over this. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be unfortunate. Also, the wife grew up horseback riding, and so she's like, oh, it'd be great for her to get into horseback riding. I'm like, I'm trying to retire by the time I'm 60. Like, I am not looking to get into, as I'm talking to her about getting into golf, which is definitely not a cheap sport.
That's expensive.
But like, so I'm just going of the route of, sure, I appreciate that. It was very nice of you to say, but I'm thinking if she doesn't even know these things exist, then we're good.
Yeah, okay.
Like, the only thing she's going to know that exists are the things that I like, right?
Well, you're doing the exact opposite of what I just said. But, you know, I'm going to cut all that, so it sounds like, you know.
Yeah. She does like to cook. She always in the morning she says cook. She likes to make her pancakes.
Yeah, get her one of those easy bake ovens, and that will turn you right into a cook.
Things are just a hot light.
Yeah, I think those are not allowed to be sold anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so. Do you have any other stock downs?
Last one, dying mysteriously, stock down. Let me state this clearly. If I die mysteriously, and most likely it's because I got assassinated by Big Chicken or some other conspiracy theory we expose in this podcast. Oh, just go on living. Do not investigate it. The last thing I need is some tell-all about my life. It'd be pretty sad. They'd basically be like, and then what's interesting is that Keith, that night, before his disappearance, ordered Uber Eats for the 30th time that month. And this time he ordered 3 desserts. Something must have been going on.
Yeah. It's like he must have not been living here because the only thing in the cupboard was Cheez-Its and a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. So there's zero.
And the last thing he searched on the internet history was something called a Swedish-made penis enlarger. Zach came out looking absolutely terrible in this. I mean, the more they dug, the worse he looked. I mean, like I said, by the end I had zero sympathy for him. I was like, what are we doing here?
Fake it till you make it, stock down. Yeah, Zach was trying to fake it till he made it, and he didn't even make it into the water. So, yeah. Ultra rich, stock down. Yeah, I mean, that kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, that sucks.
Terrible.
Totally. I would hate that. I would hate being rich.
I just say, like, it's just so weird once you get to those numbers, like Elon Musk being the world's first trillionaire or whatever. Like, how is that even possible? Like, why is that? And it's also interesting reading this book and this whole financial stuff as I'm listening to the history of the United States, which was, they're talking about the original people that lived and a lot of it is in Massachusetts and New England, and the top 1% of the population in these areas controlled like 15% of the state's wealth, or the Commonwealth. They controlled 15% of the state's wealth, and it was similar throughout the entire 13 colonies. If you take them all, like the top 1%, they owned, 15, maybe up to 20% of the wealth. Now it's like the top 1% owns like 35% of the wealth in this country. It's insane. Like we are not a democratic republic, whatever you want to believe. Yeah. We're just a bunch of people that are at the whim of these corporations. Like there's not countries anymore. There's just really rich companies that decide what they get to do with our money.
It's funny as you look up, all right, like the richest people from the 1900s or, first monopolies or any of those guys. And you'll like, oh, I recognize all these names because they built colleges, they built libraries, they built, community centers, they built hospitals, they built like all these like infrastructure things with their money to like help other people out. I mean, seemingly, I'm sure. I think that like Tim Dillon had a rant on this, who I listened to once in a while, and he had a hilarious rant. Like, yeah, he was like, they used to be fat and happy and rich and would do nice things to make up for the fact that they're shitty people, like they're monopolies and stuff. Now our billionaires are shitty people that have and like do all this stuff to tell people, like have people tell them they're funny or they're whatever to make up for the fact that they're shitty people. Like it's no longer helping everyone out. They're like, no, I'm going to spend a ton of money and like buy Twitter so I can be funny. It's like, what? Like, how are you helping society out?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're not saying that the Carnegies and whatnot were necessarily all good people, but there's a lot of union busting and there's definitely some shady deals and using the government to fund their things. But I do feel like there was more altruism at the end of life, when it came to giving back to the community. But maybe not. I haven't looked too deeply into that. Maybe they were just still shitty people. But
I will say, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I remember the Home Depot dude died. And the headline was Republican donor dies. And I was like, oh, I'm like, who's this guy? I had no idea who he was. It's like, yeah, he's the Home Depot founder. He had donated like billions of dollars to charity. And he had also like given some to the Republican Party. And they're like, this piece of shit Republican. And I was like, this is probably why people are they're like, yeah, there's no winning. So I'll just be a piece of shit instead.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's definitely true. Definitely true.
If you're running a business and your ads aren't working, listen up. Covell Marketing has managed over $120 million in ad spend across Google, Meta, and TikTok ads. They've helped clients actually grow their sales and leads, not just get clicks that go nowhere. Paid search, paid social, full digital marketing consulting. You want less jargon and more results? Then go to covel.io, that's covel.io, and get your free audit and tell them Buddy Book Club sent you. Got a golf trip or a scramble round coming up? 4Card is the free website your group needs. Set up a match in 2 minutes, share a link with your crew, and everyone's on the same live leaderboard all round long. No more texting for scores. Real-time updates, group chat, photo sharing, it's all there. Try it on your next round at 4card.app. That's FORECARD.app.
What did you love about London is Falling?
I thought it was, we've talked about it. It was very, very well researched. There was multiple threads that were kind of interesting. The history he paints, so like the first couple of chapters, I think we talked about it on the last pod, I was like, yeah, I'm going to like this book a lot because he was really painting an interesting picture. I didn't know anything about really the London history, a lot of the stuff that was going on. That I really appreciated. And I think the history aspects made it kind of come to life a little bit more.
Yeah, we've been this whole time talking about the Zac Brettler story because I feel like that's the part that you can really converse about as opposed to just talking about the history of London and the Asians in Uganda getting kicked out and what happened to, Akbar Shamji's parents and whatnot. All that stuff was so, the way that he, like the structure of the story itself, the way he layered in the context by taking us to different times in history that ultimately tied back to the story of Zac. So it didn't seem like we just went off on this total tangent that had nothing to do with the story. It built the context around the Zac Brettler story. And I thought he did a really good job of telling the history and how all of these things happened in London and why it coalesced into something where this Zac Brettler story could even happen. And agree with you. The journalism was incredible. I mean, the research he put into the story is insane. Combing through countless hours of interviews and articles and reading up on all the history. And he also, the Brettler parents were audio recording a bunch of their conversations, so he had to listen back through all of that. I'm kind of amazed by some of these journalists and stuff they do. And we recently watched All the President's Men. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but an absolute classic about the Watergate scandal. These journalists, they're doing so much to get to the bottom of what's going on that I would have given up 5% in, and they make sure they go 100%. So, I love those. Do you have anything else?
Not really.
I thought he was a really good narrator.
He was. Yeah.
He reads it. I didn't even necessarily know that he read it until I was like listening to interviews with him. And I was like, oh, this is the same voice. I was like, dang, he was better. And I mean, I might be giving a spoiler away, but we're reading Gone Girl. That'll be next. And maybe the worst narration I've ever heard in any book. It is so terrible that I'm actually going to probably go to the library tomorrow and get the actual book because I can't pick it up. I honestly...
I'm in the same thing. I didn't know. Maybe it is the narrator for me then. I didn't think about that.
I'm like, this is so bad. This book is terrible. And then I realized, like, why is this so bad? I'm like, oh, because it's the two people that are narrating it are just so... It makes it seem like this B-level teeny bopper book. Like, I think I'm reading Twilight or something like that. Props to PRK for his narration skills because it was really good. What about Hates?
Well, off the bat, one thing I didn't like about him is...
what else you got?
It's the baseball analogy here is he says at one point, he's trying to, he's like, instead of doing something simple, he's trying to hit a home run with the bases loaded. It's called a grand slam, bud.
Oh,
Figure
I
it
did
out.
catch that, yeah.
Other than that, I've kind of already gone in pretty heavily.
Yeah, I'd say so. You're about to get like a cease and desist or something. I don't even know.
The one thing I didn't really like is that once he starts using the I voice, I didn't really like any of that.
Like, towards the end?
Yeah, he was like, it was funny enough, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I met them through this, and this. What an interesting tidbit. And I was like, no, it's not. That's not interesting at all. And then he was like, yeah, and people wouldn't talk to me. And I'm like, that's because you paint almost everyone in the book as a negative light. I'm sure people don't want to be part of this story. There's no positive that comes out of this, you saying one way or the other, right? Yeah. So the last thing I'll just say is Indian Dave's daughter gets on the stand, and I didn't think she was she just said like like she wasn't there. She was just like, I like my dad, all this stuff, and then like the parents were like, how could she not like turn on him? And she obviously has incentive to not tell the truth and all these things. It's like, what about you? You're doing the exact same thing. You want this story to be true, so you're crafting this, but he didn't like mention that. He's just like, yeah, they're probably right that she's lying. I'm like, says who?
Yeah.
You know, like
if my dad was a murderer, I would be in denial. Like, there's no way I would. I wouldn't even believe, even if I got all the evidence, I just wouldn't believe it. So it's like,
and it's also he's already dead at that point. So what's she gonna do? Shit on her dad for no reason? You know what I mean? It's like it didn't make any sense. So yeah.
To your point about the eyes, I thought I kind of liked it because at the end of the day, it showed for me that he was acknowledging some of the bias that he might have had, because he was really just working with the Brettler family. You know, he wasn't paid by them like you insinuated, or maybe even flat out said, but at the same time,
so many ways
he was trying to kind of show that if this story seems to lean in their way, like towards their defense, it's because I have a personal relationship with them now. You know, I've worked through this story, so I appreciate it from that angle, from like a journalistic integrity angle, especially because it seems like today there is absolutely zero journalistic integrity that is happening. So
to be right, that's like a footnote in a 12-hour book, though, so it's not really.
Well, it was like the last. Whatever. It's the end of the book. It's what you'd want to have. But speaking about footnote in a 12-hour book, the thing I hated was I just didn't think this necessarily needed to be novel length. You know, I appreciated the extra info for context. I think we could have got the vast majority of what we needed here from a long article. I think you get it entirely, at least from the story about Zac, from a couple sentences from his mom, which she says, each was pretending to be something he wasn't, and each was caught up in the glitzy, mercenary, aspirational culture of modern London. It was three bullshit artists selling air. It's like, yes, that's it. That's exactly what it was between the three of them. Obviously, he takes a lot more into the story, which I appreciate, but it could have been a novella or like a really long Vanity Fair piece. I mean, I know he works for the New Yorker, but a really long New Yorker piece, which I think it was. I think that's how it started. But yeah, it was a bit long. And it's unfortunate that, you know, I think we both came into it, especially because we've been reading a lot of fiction. And so the fictions have stories and endings. And this story doesn't have the smoking gun at the end. Yeah. And I think he wrote another story that he did actually, like, same kind of thing happened, and he actually found out who the murderer was through his investigation.
Oh, really?
One of his other books.
Well, it seemed like it was leading towards something like a big reveal, and then just none of it happened, other than it was just kind of like finger pointing at people. You're like, oh, they should have done this.
Well, he seems to think that you're able to pull the facts together on your own without, you know what happened based on how he gave it, which is, that's his feeling.
Subjective, yeah.
And it's, definitely subjective. You clearly are of a different mindset, which is fine. I think that's, that's not the point of it all. Yeah, so I think it is coming out with a show. So there's a mini series, I think, coming out. You clearly will not be watching it.
I think that if you had visuals, it would make things easier to watch. I just don't like really documentaries as it is. So I think...
Oh, I love documentaries.
Like murder mystery. If you give me a history documentary, it's kind of like watching soccer for me. If I sit down and watch it, I can get into it, but it's hard for me to get motivated to do it.
Well, so, you're about to have 3 weeks of soccer, or 4 weeks of soccer.
I'm about to become I'm about to throw, patriotism I'll get into. Unfortunately, these day and age, it's not easy to do, but
yeah. We watched a Martin Short documentary, Life is Short. It was very good. Yeah. Very good.
I heard that was good. Yeah.
And I watched the Lorne Michaels documentary, which was good. It was good on Peacock. Yeah, definitely made me reminisce on some old SNL stuff when I used to, watch it back in the 90s. But yeah, those were all right. And if you're talking about patriotism, The Revolution by Ken Burns is insanely good. That was holy Kenny smokes. Burns? Yeah, Kenny Burns, so good. All right, so Keith, what do you give it a his for?
1.5.
Holy shit. This is out of 5, right?
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. When I first started, I was like, "This is a 4." A quarter of the way through the book, I was like, "I'm strapped in. Let's go. Let's see what happens here." And then the second part started, and I was like, "Okay, we're kind of wavering. I don't really know what's going on here." It went down to like a 3.5, then it went to 3, then it went to 2.5. So it kept on going down as I kept reading. Like, to your point, it was too long. And then by reviewing this, I was like, you know what? This is a 1.5. I'm hating this book now. So that's where I landed.
Wow.
What about you?
1.5. I'm going to give it I'm between 2.25 and 2.5.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with 2.5 just because I think the work I honestly think that the couple other books that he had done would have been better reads for us, unfortunately. Because he has one on the Sackler family, who's the, Oxycontin. Yeah, the Oxycontin family. So
yeah. I just don't like the other like 3 nonfiction we've read, I've given like a 3, like highest I've given it is a 3. So
you're just not a nonfiction guy.
No, I just think I need to be outside this world.
Yeah, you're reading to as a form of escapism. The book definitely doesn't make you feel good, and I feel like it's written from a cynical perspective or maybe a nihilist perspective. I'm not that familiar with either of those things, but of society and like the society that we've created, and honestly just the huge wealth gap and what that's allowed for and what that's made people and also just institutions do, like government institutions. So, but yeah, if you are into those things, then this book is for you. That's for sure. Or if you're my mom, then the book's for you.
I do feel bad. I hope none of the people that recommended it to you listen to this, because I feel like they're gonna be like, "This dude's an asshole, huh?" So.
Well, my mom's gonna listen to it, and she probably, because I talked to her today about
Jesus.
it, and she already thinks I'm an asshole. So my mom says things like, "You used to be such a nice boy. What happened?" Yeah, my mom's gonna be like, "Your friend Keith's never invited out to the lake. No way. He's a terrible person."
Hey, listen, you got to get it out here. This is like
it's like group therapy.
No, you know how like people that play metal music, they get it out there. They're not, that's what this is. What this is. I'm not taking my violence and hatred out there because I get it out here.
Hey, good for you. I appreciate that. Take it out on me all you want. What do we got coming up next?
Next, we got Gone Girl by Gillian or Gillian Flynn, depending on how you read that. Reader or listener recommendation. So we already did one of her books, which I think we both liked.
Sharp Objects.
Sharp Objects, yep. So we'll get into this one and see you for the next one.
All right, cool. Well, we'll catch you for Gone Girl next time. That was London is Falling, a long subtext. All right.
Indeed.
Bye now.
All right.